start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the foundation and as a publisher?
Well, within the publisher, I founded the publishing house in 2013. This was Osmylus, the publisher, was explicitly established by myself for the publication and the production of the two SIO journals. This was in the context as the former editor, Professor Bastiaan Kjouta, who lives in the Netherlands. He handed over or passed on the editorship of Odontologica to me. He was my predecessor, and he was executive editor of Odontologica for something like 42 years, incredible 42 years, I must say. He never was late with one issue. He always was on time. So it was a really absolutely great job that he did, and his footsteps are very tall in my eyes. Before I began editing Odontologica, I had been editor of the German Dragonfly journal that is called Libellula. It's the journal of the Society of German-Speaking Odontologists. And obviously the job I had done there was not that bad, because Professor Kjouta then approached me and asked me the question if I was ready to continue with the editorship of Odontologica. And I have to admit that it took me at least 1 year of consideration until I agreed. But then I said, this is a chance you only get once in your lifetime, so you have to take the chance to see if you can do it or if you can't. So that was the point for me I simply had to try it. So I began in 2014 with Odontologica, and since then I've been running the journal, or the two journals.
Yeah, and I think when we were speaking on email, you mentioned that most of the members of the foundation are in their 80s and getting ready to retire. So this is a great way to continue all of the work that's being done.
This is a bit of a problem. I don't know if it's only in the Dragonfly research, but also probably generally in all zoological societies worldwide, that the people are increasing in age. The average age is going up and going up, because many young people do not like anymore being part of a society. I don't know for what reason, but it's a different world that they are facing. You are young people, so maybe you can tell me what's the thing that the society, the SIO, which is the Latin Societas Internationalis Odontologica, the International Odontological Society. It had many members, something like 400 to 500 in the 1970s, 1980s, but now the number is constantly decreasing. And I just wanted to keep the two journals alive. So I'm not the youngest one too, but I can do some time. My goal is to do at least another 10 years of editorship, and I hope that I can continue with the journals. So, but I try to keep the whole thing running, and prepare it for a future where also younger people will find their way into Dragonfly research again.
How do you think small publishers benefit the kind of ecosystem of research overall?
In my eyes, there's definitely one answer to that question, and that is the independence. I'd say that this means that there is nobody, especially not a controller, who is we call it in Germany, who's counting peas. I don't know if you understand this proverb. He's who is looking at costs, but not at scientific content or probably other qualities of a journal, of a publication like layout or print also, which is still important to me. I'm an old man, I told you. But nobody can tell me what I have to do just for costs, for the reason of costs. I'm definitely not into profit with my journals, so I don't care if an issue costs me a few €100 more or less. If there is a long paper in it, I don't reduce the size of papers just for the sake of costs, for instance. And that's, I think, one of the real advantages that a small publisher like myself, like our house, can offer. I love my independence in that context, that I can do what I want with the journal. So I think that's the really big advantage of a small publishing house.
Let's think about the two titles that are going to be joining us in January, your two publications. Can you tell us a little bit about them? I know that it's important to keep them going and keep the Society's work going, but what's special about them for you and maybe for some of the readers for BioOne?
Tomorrow is the 1st of December, and this is volume 50. That means we have finished the 50th year of publishing Odontologica. We started the SIO started in 1971 with this journal. As I said, it was the first dragonfly journal worldwide with an international scope devoted only to the study of dragonflies. So it has I always call her the old lady, but it's a noble old lady, Odontologica, seen worldwide. And that's why I love the journals that much. When I began studying, it was publishing in Odontologica was the holy grail, for a young person like me when I began. And then when I made it to my first Odontologica publication, I was so proud that it was accepted and printed and published. So and then Notole, what I call the small sister of Odontologia. It's as I say, it's the publication for the smaller papers that are not of that much international importance. So I think it's a perfect balance between the two journals, because quite often I get, for instance, a submission to Odontologica, and then the reviewers say, well, the worldwide importance is not given in this paper, but maybe we can give it to, if the authors agree, we can transfer this paper to the Notole, and they would be, if they're fine with that solution. There's also another difference, that Odontologica has an impact factor and Notole has not. But we are trying currently I've asked the editor of Notole, who's a close friend of mine, to try and get an IF for this publication too, because we're cited very often in international papers. So I think it should be possible.
And that kind of ties into one of the other questions we wanted to ask, and thinking about that idea of a global impact. Why is dragonfly research so important? What role can it play in the bigger conversation about global diversity and science research?
Well, the good thing about dragonflies is, let's say, compared to beetles or orthoptera, grasshoppers, or bees and wasps, it's overlookable. The number of species, as far as we know at this time, is rather overlookable. And what is even more important, that except you were recently, before you talked about Lepidoptera, about butterflies, but I think together with butterflies, the dragonflies are the most attractive insect group for coloration alone, for the beautiful colors that they offer. And we often call them, for instance, the birdless insects, because we experience that birders, ornithologists, the first insect group they dealing with after birds, they shift slowly to dragonflies, because they love to take pictures of them. And then you find many on Flickr or whatever, many groups where wonderful pictures of dragonflies are being published, and then sometimes it's even that these are records that would warrant a publication, but they're only there as pictures. So it's the attractiveness of dragonflies to get people into entomology. I should say that's the most important point, the central role that dragonfly research can be doing. It's overlookable. They're wonderful. They're beautiful. There are many things that are known already, because the group is so overlookable. So it's an entry gate into entomology and into global biodiversity at the same time.
Do you have a favorite dragonfly?
Well, in fact, I do have one which is an anisopteran that comes out very early in the year here in Central Europe. The Latin name is Brachytron pratense. The English vernacular name would be the hairy dragonfly, and I like it a lot because it's so slow. It's not bully, and it's not aggressive, and it's not flying rapidly, and then it's flying slowly. It always has a tendency to be a bit appear a bit slow, and when you quite often you only hear the wings when it flies between reeds, and you hear the wings tangling the reeds. It's like a cracking of a fire or something like that. And because it's so slow and so cool and relaxed, I love it a lot. It's one of the first dragonflies of the year. I'm always really glad when I see one in uh, late April, sometimes already, which is very early for a dragonfly.
We were talking a little bit about getting more young researchers into the field and seeing what they produce and hopefully getting their work published. If somebody would like to publish in either of the journals, is there a process that they need to follow? Do you have any recommendations?
Well, everybody will be able to, even if he begins to study biology or zoology, they will soon have a paper in hands, a scientific publication. The main thing that young researchers are doing wrong in my eyes is the mixing of results and interpretation. That's a central point of any scientific publication, and my recommendation, the primary recommendation I have to every young researcher: never mix results and interpretation. For that reason, the structure of a scientific paper is always the same, with introduction, materials, results, and then the discussion where you can freely tell stories and tales and speculate, but the central point is the results. What did I do and what did I get? So, and stay with the facts. That's my main recommendation for anyone who wants to publish in a scientific journal or write scientific papers. All the other things are of less importance, I'd say. I would say that every young researcher benefits a lot if he has an older friend or colleague who would help him with his first papers, to show him how to structure, how to find the right literature, what is important. Have a look for an old hand who knows the job, how to do it, and then let him help you with your first publications. You will benefit a lot from that, I would say. The rest will come naturally. It's always a process to be a good publisher or a good author.
Absolutely. Everyone needs a mentor. So if somebody were submitting a paper to one of your journals, do your reviewers try and kind of mentor the paper through, or especially with an impact factor, I imagine you have to be a little bit more discerning. But is there a mentorship that goes on through the editorial process?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the big advantages of Odonatologica, or of the, I call it Planet Odonata, the dragonfly planet. It's a small world, you know. People usually know each other. At least before COVID, I was frequently attending the congresses and meetings of dragonfly people all over the world, especially of course within Europe. But I traveled from Spain to the Balkans, and then back and forth to go to dragonfly meetings, to get to know people. And I know many authors, reviewers, and all the people working on Odonata personally. And the same is with a young person who, when we see that his material, or her material, sorry, is great and good, but it's only a rough diamond, a raw diamond, then we help him a lot to polish this thing until it shines and until it is publishable. We are absolutely author friendly, especially when we see that someone is not so experienced. There's a lot of devotion that he can get from the reviewers and from myself, or other persons. We also have a few guys who help you to polish the English. I use them myself too because I'm not a native speaker of English, and I always am astonished what those people can make out of my texts, how they can still improve them. So whenever you submit a paper to our journals, you can be sure, no matter if you're experienced and if you're a well-known established publishing author, you are always treated the same, and you're always supported by from us as good as we can. Of course, I have to reject papers. That's no question. And I have something like I accept over the years. I have accepted probably 60% of submissions and have rejected something like 40% of submissions. But also, when I reject, I try to explain the author why it had to be rejected. And usually, people understand when I explain them why the paper was rejected. And many say, okay, I'll try it again next time. Also, I always ask them, please come back with a new research, even if this one was not accepted. It's never a personal thing if there is a rejection.